Hey guys. How's everybody doing today? Folks, I'm excited to get on here tonight. Actually, it's still the afternoon, right? It's not nighttime yet. But, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Troy. I live here in Phoenix, Arizona. I've actually lived here my entire life. And what I do is I educate and I empower people on what insulin resistance is. It's 4:11 here now. But I'm going to be talking about a really important topic that's affecting 93% of us. It's called insulin resistance. Some of you might be like, well, what is it? Right? How do I know if I have it? And if you're struggling with your health in some way today, okay, this information could change your life. And if there's somebody that you know that you love that needs to hear this, feel free to share this live with them so that they can hop on, they can listen, they can ask questions. Folks, if you're eating better than you ever have, right? You're exercising more than you ever have. And if you still feel like you're struggling with your weight, maybe your energy, maybe your labs look normal, but you still feel sick, okay? This live is about why that happens. So I want to share with you what insulin is, what it actually is, why it's behind just about every chronic issue that we're seeing. And most importantly, I want to share with you what it is that you can do to start improving your health. So if you've ever struggled with weight, right, fatigue or brain fog or cravings, okay, diabetes, high cholesterol, sorry, my allergies are kicking my butt today, or high blood pressure, then this live is for you, okay? So, folks, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Troy. I go by Health Coach Troy. I live here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I spent a lot of time educating people on metabolic health, specifically insulin resistance. Nancy, thank you so much for being on. Okay, so I spent a lot of time educating people on what insulin resistance is because I've seen firsthand what happens when this goes unchecked, right? 93% of the United States population has insulin resistance, right? How many of you are diabetic? How many of you are pre-diabetic? How many of you have PCOS? Okay, erectile dysfunction. Okay, this isn't about willpower, folks. It's about understanding your body. Nancy, I'm not really sure what your comment is. So if you struggle with insulin resistance, right? How many of you have skin issues, right? Skin tags, psoriasis, okay, eczema, adult acne, right? How many of you know of somebody that is affected or struggling with those issues? How many of you are tired all the time or craving food all the time? Excuse me, my allergies are so bad. Lizbeth Roses, I hope that you do. Okay, folks, my goal is to help you understand what insulin resistance is, and most importantly, what you can do to start improving your health. Here's the deal. If you want to make a big impact in business or life, you've got to be able to solve a major problem. And right now, the biggest health issue, thank you, Nancy, the biggest health issue in the world is insulin resistance. And over the past 2 years, I've actually been able to improve that naturally without meds. Now, some of you know my story, right? Back in November of 2014, I donated a kidney to my brother-in-law. And I'm very grateful for that day. Very honored to have been able to do that. But it was 7 years later when I was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney disease. And my nephrologist said, Troy, if you don't lose weight, if you don't change your diet, you're going to end up on dialysis or worse. How many of you feel like every time you go to a doctor, they just give you another med? That's what my doctor did. He's like, you need to lose some weight. Ellie, I love you, my friend. And so, right, my doctor gave me med and said, you need to lose weight. And if you don't do this, it's dialysis or worse. And that freaked me out. That was kind of my wake up call, right? How many of us are walking around with excess belly fat, right? The stubborn weight that just won't that just won't go away. Hey, how many of you have skin issues like skin tags or psoriasis or eczema? Thank you, Nancy. I actually did. Thank you for that. Okay. Is there anyone here with inflammation like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease? Okay. How many of you with prediabetes or type 2? Okay, these are all signs of insulin resistance. And the reality is that 93% of the United States population has this. So why are we all struggling with this? And most importantly, folks, what can we do to improve our health, right? I want you guys to think about something. This is, and I just made a video of this today, but this is something that might encourage you and wake you up all at the same time. You know, I live in Mesa, Arizona, and I drive past a cemetery to get to my house. And my dad and my brother are there. And you guys realize that the cemetery is full of people who thought that they had more time, right? These are people who believed that tomorrow was guaranteed. But here's the truth, right? Right now is the only actual moment that you have that's tangible. You know, we tell ourselves, tomorrow I'm going to do this. Tomorrow I'm going to do that. Tomorrow I'm going to, apologize to somebody. Tomorrow I'm going to take my health seriously. But tomorrow isn't promised, folks. You don't know what this day will bring. You don't know what this year will bring. And, thinking that you're healthy or wealthy doesn't make you immune to what can happen. Because the graveyard is full of people who literally thought the exact same things. So let me ask you something real, okay? Are there things that you wish you could change? And second of all, if you've been putting your health on hold, saying, I'll deal with it later, later may cost you more than you realize. This isn't fear, this is awareness, right? It's helping us to understand, why we have these health issues, and most importantly, what we can do to start improving them. Because the best time to change is the moment that you realize you still can. Does that make sense? Folks, I didn't know what insulin resistance is. And I think about this every day. I'm like, my brother was 33 years old when he passed away. I have friends who are younger than me who have passed away. And, right, we all think, you know what, I'm going to take care of this tomorrow. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. And our health, when I think about our health, right, you could have the most beautiful house in the world. You could have all the money in the world. But if you don't have your health, you have nothing. Fighting good night. Thank you for being on this morning. Your morning. Actually, no, it was your night. So why are we all struggling with this? And I want you to think about your own health as I share this, right? Are you dealing with insulin resistance? And if you are, what are you doing to improve your health? Right? What's interesting is there's a lot of people that have type 2 diabetes. And, type 2 diabetes, they lied to you about it, right? Because they told you that it was progressive. They told you that, you're going to have it for the rest of your life. And folks, it's not a life sentence. It's not. It's reversible because insulin resistance is reversible. And Fiden, thank you so much for being on even so early in the morning for you. Okay. Let's talk about insulin. Okay. Insulin is a fat storing hormone. Okay. Speed Racer, thank you for that. I appreciate you. Okay. Folks, insulin is not your friend. It's not. Okay. It's its job to store fat. So when insulin stays high from sugar and carbs, guess what? Okay. Your body stores it as fat, your body inflames, and it starts to break down. This isn't opinion, it's physiology, right? It's what happens all the time. Here's the part that no one wants to tell you, folks. When I go to a doctor, because I've got IBS or migraines or cholesterol issues, and let's say that I go to 3 different doctors, right? Because I want 3 different opinions. I'm going to pay 3 different copays, and I'm going to walk out with at least 3 different medications, and not one of those meds even touches the real root cause of the health issues. See, folks, all they're doing is managing the numbers, the symptoms. But the moment they stop, the moment you stop those meds, what do you think is going to happen, folks? Seriously. What do you think is going to happen? How many of you are dealing with diabetes? This is a huge red flag. How many of you, when you go to your doctor, it's like your doctor just wants to put you on one more med? See, Speed Racer, thank you for that. Right? Folks, insulin resistance affects us all. And I want to share kind of an analogy that I think kind of helps us to understand what happens inside of our body, right? If you put a chicken in the oven, okay, it goes from pink to brown. You can actually see that chicken cooking, right? And that browning process that happens with the chicken, it's a process called glycation, which is the same thing that happens to you and I as we get older, but it's also the same thing that happens to bread when you toast it. See, most people don't realize that from the moment you and I are born, the human body is slowly undergoing the same process. It's a very gradual process over time. This is one of the reasons why the cartilage in babies is white, while in much older adults, it becomes darker. Hey, Miji, thank you for hopping on. Okay. This is what is called accumulated glycation. Okay. And so every time you and I eat, especially sugar and especially carbs, what happens is it causes your blood sugar to spike. And in return, your pancreas secretes a hormone called insulin. Okay, insulin is what's moving the glucose out of our bloodstream, and it takes it to our cells. And normally, folks, your cells would be okay with this. But what happens is that you become resistant. Your body becomes resistant to it. Now, why is this so important to understand insulin, and why is it important to lower our insulin? And the reason is because more than 50% of our country has type 2 diabetes or is pre-diabetic. And chronic conditions like obesity and cardiovascular disease and autoimmune disorders, they're skyrocketing. And it's not just physical health, folks, infertility, PCOS, even mental health issues, right? Like anxiety are all linked to insulin resistance. Now, what's frustrating, and thank you for that, Biden. What's frustrating is that we are often given medications for each symptom, but they don't fix the root cause, which is insulin resistance. My goal every time I get on these lives is to help change that. Right? Kelly Gilberry, right? Erectile dysfunction, right? Low testosterone. And no, I'm not talking about guys in their 60s. I'm talking about guys in their 20s. What about PCOS? Right? PCOS happens to be the leading cause of infertility for women. And all of this, folks, is all caused by insulin resistance. Now, I want you guys to understand something. Type 2 diabetes is not a life sentence. It's not a progressive issue. It's reversible because insulin resistance is reversible. And I want you guys to realize something too, right? How many of you have a CGM, right? A CGM, a continuous glucose monitor. Here's the truth, okay? CGMs don't manage diabetes as much as you think it manages your diabetes. It doesn't. They give information. A CGM is like a breathalyzer, right? It tells you how drunk you are, but it doesn't cure alcoholism, right? It provides information and that is it, right? Normal glucose, folks, does not mean that you're healthy. Doesn't mean it at all. It just means that your insulin is working for now. See, if you're medicated, but you're still sick, you're healed, right? You're not healed. You're managed. Okay? If this is hitting home, tap the screen or drop me in the comments. But think about this, right? How many of us were told to eat 3 meals a day and to snack 2 to 3 times a day? How many of us were told to, you know, to avoid fats and to eat more sugar, right? How many of us were told to have 6 to 11 daily servings of grains, right? Carbs. You guys realize that we get that from the food pyramid, right? How many of us were told to that 60% of our daily intake should be carbs? Do you realize that carbs is what causes diabetes? And if you're diabetic, you're 80% likely to develop cardiovascular disease, a heart attack, a stroke. You're 81% more likely to develop Alzheimer's or dementia. You guys wonder why, when you go to a doctor, they're always treating the symptoms? They're always asking you, which pharmacy would you like to go and pick the script up? You guys hear what I'm saying? You know what's crazy? You don't fix insulin resistance by eating less food, right? You know, I was watching a video of a guy on social media, and he weighs a lot. He's a big boy, and he's wanting to get down to 400 pounds in like 400 days. And it was interesting because in one of his videos, he says, move, he's going to do it by moving more and eating less. Folks, I want you to understand that's what we've all been taught, is to move more and eat less, but it doesn't work. It doesn't. You don't fix insulin resistance by eating less food. You fix it by eating less often. You know, and here's what I mean by that, right? When you go longer periods of time without putting food into your mouth, it's called intermittent fasting or time-based eating, right? And Speed Racer, I was doing the same thing. I'm a foodie. I love food. And so, right, when we're eating all the time, I had no idea that I didn't even know insulin or glucose. Never knew it, right? But every time we eat, we spike our blood sugar. And that means that your insulin goes up again. And so at the end of the day, what's happening is we're spiking insulin on insulin spike on insulin spike and doing that over and over again. And so this shift that changed and helped me to reverse stage 4 kidney disease was understanding what insulin resistance was. You don't fix it by eating less food. You eat it by eating less often, right? And when you utilize time-based eating or intermittent fasting, it's powerful. It's a game changer. It literally helps you to get your life back, your health back. Now, listen, okay? I'm not anti-doctor and I'm not anti-medicine. I'm anti-ignoring the root cause. When you guys go to your doctor, do you realize that they don't ever talk to you about the root cause? Did you ever notice that? Do they ever teach you why your A1C is high? Do they ever give you a natural alternative as opposed to, hey, here's another med? Does this make sense? Folks, I've seen more people just in the last 2 years reverse type 2 diabetes on its own without meds. I've seen more people cut their A1C in half without meds. I've seen more people, improve their blood pressure and cholesterol naturally without the need for that. I've seen people sleep better than they have in days, right? How many of you have sleep apnea? How many of you are waking up multiple times of the night just to go to the bathroom? How many of you are eating food late at night? Folks, I love talking about this. I only wish that I knew this 20 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than 20 years ago. It was January of 2005 when my brother, who is 33 years old, passed away. And folks, here's a big one: type 3 diabetes. Okay. Have you guys ever heard of type 3 diabetes? And if you haven't, I didn't either in the beginning. It's insulin resistance of the brain of an adult, and it is linked to Alzheimer's and dementia. And here's the scary part, folks: it can literally take 10 to 20 years before insulin resistance leads to a diabetes diagnosis. It's crazy. But the good news is that you can fix it without the need for meds. Most people just don't know this. Folks, 74% of American adults are overweight or obese. 50% of our kids are overweight or obese. 77% of our young adults are overweight and they're unfit to serve in the military because of these health issues. And, Teresa, you're 100% right, right? They do. They cause that 50% of the time. I have an 89-year-old customer who he's tried everything. And I would imagine many of you have done the same thing. Many of you have tried everything under the sun, and it just doesn't work. And I would imagine some of you spent thousands of dollars in the process. My customer, Gene, he's 89 years old. He loves this system because it works. It works with his biology. It would work with your biology. It works with my biology. It doesn't work against it. This whole move more, eat less, right? The calories in, the calories out approach. Do you guys realize that they did a study over 100 years ago? There was a study that was done at the Carnegie Institute of Washington back in 1919. And when people reduced their calories by 25%, guess what happened? People couldn't stop thinking about food. Do you guys ever remember those Snickers commercials, right? Where people turn into monsters because they're so hungry? It was the same vibe. But it wasn't just hunger. Like, these people started to lose muscle. Muscle is important, right? See, if you're trying to lose weight, folks, and you're only focused on what the scale is telling you, do you guys realize that you're setting yourself up because the number on the scale doesn't tell you if you're losing fat or muscle? See, muscle is what keeps your metabolism firing. When you lose muscle, your metabolism actually slows down. And this is actually one of the ways that they decide when somebody's ready for a nursing home. It's whether you can physically get up out of a chair. It's crazy. But here's where it gets deeper. When we drastically cut our calories because we think that's helping us to lose the weight, right? Your body doesn't just burn fat. It starts breaking down your muscle. It lowers your cardiac stroke output. It slows your immune system by 50%. That's why when you're sick, you feel weak and sluggish. And Tracy, you're absolutely right, right? Muscle is more dense than FAT, right? But folks, here's the crazier part. When your insulin levels stay high, do you guys realize that your body is storing this extra energy in the form of FAT? Your body is storing it. It also suppresses your natural defense, right? So everything from viruses to the C word, right? It loves sugar. It loves high insulin environments. And so, folks, if we're eating all the time, This is probably partially why you can't lose weight and why you're tired all the time, why you're bloated all the time, exhausted, right? The list goes on and on. Okay. Now let's get to the key point. Okay. When you fast or when you go long periods of time without food, you are avoiding these glucose spikes. And when you avoid the glucose spikes, it means that your body doesn't have to release any insulin. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. Okay. And so the key is to not eat all day. The key is to, I every morning I skip breakfast. I love breakfast, but I have it for lunch or I have it for dinner. Breakfast is not the most important meal of the day, like you and I were told. Listen, I want you guys to think of insulin resistance like a fire that is burning out of control in your body. Just like how the smoke signals that there's a fire, the symptoms that we are dealing with, right? That is the smoke to the fire. And when we choose to put the fire out, guess what happens? The smoke goes away. It does. But if we keep going to the doctors and we keep treating these symptoms with more meds, you guys realize that we're just creating more problems, bigger problems over time. And how many of us were told or taught to eat 3 meals a day and to snack throughout the day? Right? This whole eating pattern has become ingrained in our routines, which is why 93% of people are metabolically unhealthy. Now, folks, while we might be living longer, it's not about longevity. It's about how good we feel as we age. Most of us can live to 100 years, but how many of you want to be wheelchair bound or bed bound? No, none of us do. This is why I teach the things that I teach, right? Most of you and I grew up believing that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. Folks, breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. It's not. Breakfast is definitely not. Now, there's a lot of things that we could be talking about. At the end of the day, too much sugar in the brain of a child leads to ADHD. Too much sugar in the brain of an adult is Alzheimer's and dementia. Too much sugar in your joints is arthritis. Okay? How many of us are dealing with these health issues? And how many of you are on a med to manage it? If there's anything that you get from what I've shared this afternoon, is to give you hope and to understand that you can fix and reverse the symptoms that you have without the need for meds or diets or crazy exercises. They just don't talk about this. You always have options, folks. Okay, most of you probably don't know that you have options, but you've always had options. Now, I've got just a few more minutes. Okay, is there any questions that people have that I might be able to answer? And I hope that what I was sharing with you makes sense. Okay, it's basic psychology, basic biology, right? Most people don't understand how this works, so they just keep doing what they've always done. But if you don't understand something, you've got to stop, slow down, and learn how the body actually works. Jeff Allen, do you ever drink chia seeds? Chia seeds are actually really great. Chia seeds are a great source of fiber, right? And there's two things that I teach, fasting and fiber. Okay. We're not getting enough fiber in our diet, and there's a reason for that. Okay. The manufacturers, okay, have taken fiber out of our foods. And so, I actually use a special fiber, right? It was created by Rexall back in the late 80s, early 90s. And you're not going to find anything like it. It's been around for almost 30 years and hardly anybody knows about it. But to answer your question, Jeff, right? Broccoli and beans and flax and chia seeds, avocados, artichokes. These are some great sources of fiber. And we've got to get ourselves great sources of fiber. Tracy, fiber is in salads, low carb veg, right? Those are great ideas. Happy Mac says, I have to kick the sugar caffeine. Each time I try cutting down, I end up with a pounding headache and throwing up. Happy Mac, I have something that helps you. In fact, what I'm sipping on is a chlorogenic tea. Okay. It is a natural Ozempic. It's a natural metformin. It does the exact same thing. And yet there's no side effects, there's no contraindications. And I had migraine headaches, Happy Mac, for 23 years. 23 years I had these migraines. And doctors couldn't figure out how to get rid of them. Within the first week of being on this system, my migraines of 23 years went away. I love what Speed Racer just said. He said, not conclusive yet, but promising. My depression is almost gone. It's still early for me. Speed Racer, I love that. That's powerful. That's huge. Folks, I want you to understand at the end of the day, you have the power and ability to start healing your gut naturally without the need for meds or diets. If you're looking for something simple, I've got it for you. Okay. I'm going to be on live tonight. I wanted to share this with you because tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have a science call. We have a science call where people can come and learn the science behind what insulin resistance is, why we have it, and most importantly, what we can do to improve it. And we're going to be talking about a simple tool that is clinically proven. It comes with a guarantee. It works. But tonight at 9 o'clock at 9 Eastern Standard Time, if you have a desire to be on that science call, okay, you don't have to have your camera on or anything. Send me a DM. I will send you the details for that science call if you want to be on that tonight. Just to learn, right? Just be a fly on the wall. And if you are serious and curious about what it is that I use every day, I would love to connect with you and share that with you. Guys, I really do appreciate you hopping on this live. I will be on later tonight as well. I'll be on at about 9:30 Eastern Standard Time tonight. I know that might be late for some of you, but I get on that time pretty much every night. Folks, if there's anything that I could do to help you, I'm here for you. This is why I do this. I made a promise to my Heavenly Father that I would share this with as many people as I could to help as many people as I possibly can. And if you're needing that help, this can help you. It's a game changer. 2026 is all about making, new changes, right? And I love this because when you think about, most of us just keep putting off because we think that tomorrow is guaranteed, and tomorrow, unfortunately, is not guaranteed, right? Folks, our health, right? If you really want to take your health seriously, what I share with people daily can help you to do that. This could be a year where you could get off all your meds. This could be a year to where for the first time, you're sleeping through the night and not waking up, right? This is the year to get your energy levels back, okay? And Speed Racer, I appreciate that, okay? Folks, thank you so much for hopping on tonight. I will be on later. And if you guys want to, again, hop on a call, I'm happy to do that. DM me. Would be more than happy to do that. God bless you.